Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to episode 78 of the Prosperous Yogini Podcast. Now, before I launch into today's podcast episode, the other day, my higher self, late one evening, told me to do a final workshop for the year. So it's slightly last minute because I was like, right, I'm going to think about this, higher self. And I went to bed, and the next morning it was like, no, you need to do it. And I'm like, listen, I've got 10 days to sell this workshop, really? And my higher self was like, yes. So if you are listening to this in time, Monday, the 18th of December, 2023, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I am doing my review and renew workshop, end of year workshop. It is going to include breath work, meditation, journaling, where we are going to be reviewing 2023. So if you go back to last week's podcast, episode 77, all of that goodness in there, I will be guiding you through that. And then looking forward to 2024, setting some, I'm going to say goals, but setting some dreams, some ambitions, some targets, some wishes that you would like to bring into your life and your yoga business in 2024. It is for yoga teachers and it's for just anyone. It not necessarily has to have a business focus. You can decide what aspect of your life you want to review in 2023, and you can decide what aspect of your life that you want to renew and set some ambitions for, some dreams for in 2024. So there's breath work, meditation, a little bit of journaling, and to then plant the seeds, energetically plant the seeds, to call that all in, to release and let go of all that's happened this year in 2023. There will be an hour's restorative yoga practice. It is going to be gorgeous, and it combines, and this is kind of like one of the things I want to do more of because I'm quite excited about this. It combines all my skill sets, my skill set as a yoga teacher, like the physical practice, the breath work, the meditation, my experience as a mentor, someone who mentors and coaches yoga teachers and people in their business, bringing in the action, the energy of action, the energy of doing, that masculine energy that we absolutely have, but also that feminine energy, the energy of tapping into our intuition, the energy of light. And that can only happen from a place of nervous system reset, nervous system calmness. So it's all in this workshop, Monday, the 18th of December, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's only £33. I'll put the link to it in the show notes. There is a replay, and if you come along to this podcast episode after the date, you're like, damn, that sounded good, I'd love that, drop me a message, DM me, and I'm sure I can send you the replay. All right, my darling. But if you can make me live, I'd really love to see you. And it does kind of help to wrap up this week's episode, what I'm talking about in this week's episode and last week's episode. So episode 77, I was talking about the process of reviewing. So we're at this time of year, we're heading towards the end of the year, and it is good if you can find the time. And when I say find the time, diarize the time is always available to us. Diarize, set aside the time to just pause, have a moment of reflection. If we change, I do get a little bit, and it could be the ex-teacher in me, but when I hear about review and goal setting and target setting, there's this little part of me that wants to roll my eyes and go, no, thank you, right? But I do come from that education background where what does the data say? Lead by the data. And anyway, and the data is important, but it has to be led. Data plus energy equals aligned action. But anyway, but if we think of it as reviewing or reflecting, and last week in episode 77, I talked about cultivating the practice of being a reflective practitioner. This is so much nicer language, guys, than review the year. Look what went well, look what didn't go well, and set goals, set targets for the next year ahead. I am asking you to do this, but I'm actually trying to take a sort of more compassionate, energetically calmer approach, perhaps, because when we say review the year and what went well and what didn't went well, and we tend to perhaps be drawn more to what didn't work well, and can be very hard on ourselves when it comes to our perceived failures. And then goal setting, that's I find it so hard. I split with my goal setting, and I will talk more about this in this episode, between setting perhaps completely unrealistic goals, which then I feel like, well, I'm setting myself up to fail because that is not achievable. And then, not setting goals that actually are encouraging me for growth or expansion, that are, challenging what I believe is possible, because that's what we need to do in order to expand, in order to, move towards that dream, whatever it is we're holding close in our heart. So that time reflective practitioner, I really like that. It allows us to, what does it mean? I'm going to review what happened this year. I'm going to look towards things that went well. Yeah. Whatever they are, even if it's like I started one class and consistently 3 people came every week. Right. So you could be like, well, that was a failure. Like I only had one class and I only had 3 people come every week. Well, this is where our perception, this beautiful brain of ours, is so powerful. Like if you've just qualified and you took the action of setting up, one class, setting up the systems to talk to people, to invite them to this class, you turned up consistently every week, and you have 3 consistent people show up every week. That is an achievement, guys, because it shows you that you can be consistent, and consistency is king when it comes to building anything. And when you're self-employed, not just that, you have 3 people show up every week. You've got super fans, and you can do anything once you have super fans. When you have 3 consistent people coming back every week, that tells you that when I find my tribe, when I find my person, they love what I do. So, the reflecting practitioner on that, the successes, I've found 3 people who are my tribe, and I've turned up for them every week, and they've turned up for me every week. So then, then if I'm being a reflective practitioner, what isn't so good about that? What, not a failure, but what can I learn? What do I want to change about this that isn't working? And 3 people every week, I'm breaking even. Yeah, I'm breaking even for my endeavors of teaching this class. And that, isn't sustainable. That is not one class a week. It's not a hobby, guys, right? You're going out and teaching yoga. You invested time, energy, and money in training. And perhaps whether you're happy for it to be 1 or 2 classes a week, or you'd like to one day move for it to be your full-time employed job, I think at every stage in our business, we should have absolutely intention of having a fair energy exchange for our gifts, aka making money. Okay, so the next stage is, right, this class, so I've got these 3 people. I would like this to be a profitable class, right? That's the goal here, the goal. All right. So what's the facts? What's the figures? How many more people makes it a profitable class? Well, maybe if I double the number of people, 6, I'll make X amount. And then add another 3 into that, that's 9. Oh, now we're making this amount. And if I could get this class full, what is a full class for me? 12. I'd be making this amount from this class. So here's my review for reflective practitioner. Look what went well. Then look what wasn't going so well. And then set some goals, and along these goals, it's like I'm looking at the data. How much will I make if X amount of people come? How many people will make if X amount of people come? Then, okay, so I reviewed, I've set a goal, right? This is really important. What is the space in between that takes me from where I am now and this goal I like, which is this full class of 12 people? And I know from my review, from my role as a reflective practitioner, I know that I need to fill this class with 9 more people of my tribe. Okay. And when you're like, the world's a big place. I had a teacher once, she was teaching in Bude, which is a small seaside town. Cool. I get a bit like, if you call a Devon, if you are living in Bude, I may have just started a huge debate. Anyway, but the population of Bude was, I think, 26,000 people. Yeah. And we were on a coaching call, and she was in my mentorship program. And she's just starting classes, and she had like I think 6 people to this class, and she would like a few more. And she said to me, look, there's so many yoga teachers imbued. Like, I don't think I can get any more people to this class. My numbers are going to be small because it's a saturated market. And I Googled the amount of people imbued. And I was like, look, you know what? You just want 6 more people. Look how many people are imbued. Like, there are another 6 more people of your tribe, like 100%. And this is where, with both reviewing and goal setting, it is a tricky thing. It's not something you should do alone, by the way. I really think that's why you need to be in my mentorship program, guys. But I'll talk to you about that at the end. All come along to this workshop on the 18th of December. The noise of the mind stuff can cloud our judgment, and that's why I'm always like, what does the data say? And then energetically, what does the energy say around how you're feeling about this? And then what's the aligned action based on data, facts, and the energy leading the action. Okay, this is how you step into the flow. And when you step into the flow, you'll feel your yoga classes no problem, or whatever it is you'd like to create. You'd feel this retreat no problem. You'll launch your online course and people will buy it no problem, once you get into that flow state. But listen, it's like, you practice, how many years have you been practicing yoga, right? Like, what does your yoga practice tell you about this energetic flow state that we swim in as human beings? Like, sometimes we're really in the flow, and it's easy to be in the flow, right? Yeah, you turn up to your yoga mat and you're like, oh, I'm on fire today. Yeah, okay. And then we have days that we roll out on mat and we're like, why is this so hard? Why could I do this no problem last week? Why do I not want to roll out my yoga mat today? And like, why am I hating my yoga practice today? Right? That is the same as your business, my darling. Okay, what happens on our yoga mat is like a mirror for what happens in all aspects of our life, whether it's our yoga business or not. Okay, so we swim in and out with the flow, but this process of reviewing and goal setting, actually, if we've gone off path, if we've got stuck in a rip current, or we've taken the wrong turn down a back lane, two very Cornish references there, by the way. If you don't live in Cornwall, you'll be like, what is she talking about? Honestly, in Cornwall, if you go down a wrong turn in the back lane, you can potentially spend what may feel like an eternity going down a single track lane with really high hedges, thinking, any minute now I'm going to move the tractor and have to reverse this whole track. But the process of reviewing and goal setting helps us, if we have slightly diverged off, I don't want to say our path, but where we want to go, then this will shine a light on it. And that's what being a reflective practitioner does. It allows us to, from a place of non-attachment, thank you, Patanjali, you were so wise. I'll tell you what, Patanjali Sutras, if you're not going to come onto my mentorship program, pick up Patanjali Sutras and use that to help you guide you through your yoga business. Like, he talks about the noise of the mind stuff, the chitta vritti, the veil, revealing the veil so we can see clearly. So that connection to source, that energetic connection to source. And from a place of non-attachment, we need to be able to review where we are right now and set goals for where we'd like to go from a place of non-attachment. And it's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult. And we also have to be compassionate to our own selves and understand that, just like our yoga practice shows us, sometimes we are right in the flow and this is easy. And sometimes it just feels like, it feels sticky. It feels like we're swimming through mud. And actually, sometimes energetically, we're not in a place to be doing this. So I'm going to talk about goal setting. I'm coming on to that next, right? I'm going to give you some tips on that. But I just want to say, like, if you're feeling, and this is very common feeling at this time of year, I have certainly felt this at certain points in the last week, not to mention we are heading towards a Mercury in retrograde. I have been feeling at certain points completely overwhelmed, like that. So like pressure headache, thinking I've got to remember this for Christmas, this for school, this for my business. The weather is cold and wet. I haven't surfed for a while because of that. I'm missing surfing, all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh, it just feels so hard. I would never choose in that state to do any form of review and goal setting. Because right now in that state, my brain waves are like, they're on fire. I've got every app open on my phone. I've overloaded my hard drive, and it's like a humming, like I'm close to, overheating and needing to go on standby, right? Yeah, I cannot in that place, effectively goal and review set. If I am going to sit down to do this, and this is why next the workshop on the 18th is like so magical, so please do come along, only £33. I will, before we do any of this, we're going to do some breath work, we're going to do some meditation, we're going to do some gentle flowing movement to move the energy, to calm literally slow the frequencies of the brainwave, so you can be in a much calmer, clearer place to make accurate, non-attached decisions and judgments. And then we're going to go into a place of restorative yoga to slow the brainwaves down even more, to almost allow that information that you taken in and those thoughts and feelings that you've had about where you are and where you'd like to go to be processed. And in this quieter place, there may be even some more further nuggets of guidance and a feeling of I can do this, right? So this is why energy and action, they are married. Okay, we need to take them in the feminine and the masculine, and the intuition and the doing, the yin and the yang. I don't care what map you want to look at, my darling. They are interconnected, and we need to be working with both energies. Okay. And a lot of the time, I think maybe my trigger, want of a better word, with this goal setting and review from my previous job as a school teacher, so often this felt very, very stressful because you felt very stressed, pressure to get a certain amount of results and grades for your children. Well, I always felt it because I cared about them, but also there was that external pressure of, publishing GCSE A-level results and, and all of that malarkey that comes with being a school teacher. Anyway, so let's get on to goal setting and when and how you might do it. So I think it's really, if you haven't listened to episode 7, you really do need to go there first, because I talk about, the process of reviewing, that there are natural points in the year where we will be reviewing. So obviously end of year, that sort of like feeling of an annual review, feeling of taking stock of the whole of the year. And it literally is like, we'll keep it real simple. What went well? What didn't go well? When I'm making judgments on what went well and what didn't go so well, I'm looking at the data. Okay, what does the data say? And also, like, where was I before then? Yeah, because if, like, go back to my example of I've had one class and 3 people consistently turn up every week, and before that I wasn't even a qualified yoga teacher, I've just passed, right? Well, actually, you're doing really well, right? Okay. So, and then energetically, what am I still feeling excited about? What's still lighting me up? What do I still feel driven, have that desire to do? What no longer is serving me? And this is why episode 77 is important to listen to, because I talk about, like, sometimes you'll be like, this is really profitable, but it really doesn't work for me anymore. I really don't want to do that anymore, but it's really profitable. And then make a decision about whether, well, I'll keep this, and this is the goal. Okay, let's take that. Let's take the example of my Saturday morning class, really busy in-person class, like 15, 18 people every week. And I loved this class and I loved these students, right? And I loved teaching this Saturday morning vinyasa, high energy, strong class. I loved it. I love nothing more than making them sweat, right? I loved it, right? And it worked particularly well when pre-kids, when I was working part-time as a school teacher, Saturday morning, I'm not working as a school teacher. And then it also, once I had my children and I went full-time in my yoga business, my children were young, it worked really well because, like, I was with my babies and my toddlers Monday to Friday during the day, unless they were at preschool. And they didn't go to preschool until they were 2. And so when my husband was around at the weekend, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go teach yoga. I'm off, and then as they got older and they went to school and they got older and we really fell into the, both being at school Monday to Friday, it started to get at the weekend on a Saturday morning. I'm like, I actually want to be at home. I'm actually, weekend became like, God, this is such a precious time. And I think it hit me a little more as my son got older, as he was approaching that secondary school age and like we wanted a little less cuddles from his mum. I'm like, oh, very cliched, but this is such a precious time. They're not going to be children. They're not going to be young children. They're not going to want to hang out with me anymore. And I gave that. Ultimately, when I told everyone I was starting my Saturday morning class, I ultimately gave that as a reason that I wanted to be with my children while they still wanted to hang out with me. Like, I was like, this might not be forever, but for now I'm stopping Saturday morning. But this was a really profitable class. But let's take the review. I reviewed on paper, really profitable. Energetically was no longer aligned. I knew I had to stop at some point because resentment would build up. And then at some point that energy would lead and numbers would drop off anyway. It actually reminds me, guys, I can't remember what podcast episode it is, but it's worth going back to Help My Classes Are Empty and Help My Classes Are Full episodes, because the empty class is really interesting because sometimes the class is empty because you don't really want to do it. Anyway, so I reviewed, see it was a profitable class, but when I asked myself, so the data said it was profitable, but when I asked myself, how do I feel about it? I was like, I need to stop this. So the goal was, okay, I need to stop Saturday morning. I need to decide how and when it's going to happen. And okay, I'm taking away this amount of income in my business. Have I got a plan to feel that? Do I need to have a plan to feel it? I mean, it can just be, I'm just going to take that away and just trust something else will come. Or actually, I'm being called to do this, and this will grow. And like, maybe I'll stop this class here when this reaches this point, or vice versa. Okay, so goal setting then. So you've done your review, you've done your annual review. Then you need to think about, let's change that word from goals to perhaps renewing. What do I want to renew and refresh? What do I want to carry on as it is? It's working. Don't break anything that isn't broken, right? That's golden rule number 1. Golden rule number 2, have you given it enough time? Okay. Reviewing, renewing. What would I like to do differently? What would I like to change? Okay. And I've written like goals versus ambitions, possibility and impossibility, because I think like there's almost 2 levels to this. There's this real practical, well, I've got a retreat. Let's change it from classes to a retreat. Okay. You've got a retreat coming up in Easter 2024, right? And you'd like this retreat to be full. That is very clear. You've reviewed, I've got 3 people booked in, and I need there to be 12 people to be booked in for this retreat to be profitable and worth the energy exchange. Okay, so you reviewed and you've seen how many people are in, you've looked at the data, you know the facts and figures, and you know you want 12 people in this retreat in April. So the real practical goal is, I need to get 12 people, right? This is achievable, it's practical. Then you've got your goal, you've got the review, where I am now, the goal, where I'd like to be, you've got that time frame, Easter 2024. Then your question is, what are the steps in between this that I'm going to take to feel this retreat? Okay, because now I'm like, I've got a time frame, I know I need to feel it, I know I need to perhaps reach out to those people that have inquired, reach out to people that have been to my retreats before, if I've previously run to retreats. I need to talk about this retreat at the end of every in-person class that I do, because they're going to be the main people that are going to be coming to this retreat. I need to think about, if I'm using social media, my broadcast channels, where I am talking to people. So talking to people in person, talking to people on my mailing list if I have one, talking to people on my social media channels. I need to think about, what is a rhythm, a pattern that, will honor my energetics and my time that is available to me, but allow me to continually remind and sign people to this retreat. So I'm taking action towards my dreams. I'm taking action towards my goals. So there's a real tangible example. And that is what I would say is a real possibility, right? Well, then there is a broader goal here, right? What happens if this is your first retreat and I say to you at the end of 2024, what's the goal? Where would you like to be in your business? And that can be a really hard one to answer. But it could go along the lines of, I'd like to have 2 sold out retreats, and I'd like 2025, I'd like 4 retreats booked in, and I'd like them all half full with the systems to fill them in place so it's all much easier for me. And I'd like to be well on my way to dropping my classes and having a full-time yoga retreat business. And you're like, okay, that seems like almost impossible, but I would say set these impossible goals, not so impossible that they trigger your nervous system into stress, but into that, the magical goal, the end of year magical goal. So goal setting, we have these overarching at the end of 2024, what is that magical goal that I would love to call in? Okay. Then what are those hit points in the year? What do I know that's coming up in 2024 that I need to take action towards, masculine versus feminine? Okay. And then the thing is, we're not just reviewing at the end of the year. If you go back to episode 77, I talk about other places in the year where you may or should choose, and I shouldn't use that word should, let's change the word should, where you plan with what works for you, times where you have other moments at stepping back and reviewing. Look, you shouldn't just do should. I don't know, use the shoulds. It wouldn't work if you just turned up to your yoga mat at Christmas, right? It's a regular practice. This review, goal setting, this it's like ebb and flow of just checking in. Am I aligned? Have I gone off my path? What happens if, that takes me more off my path? Let's come back to here. This gentle ebb and flow of review and renew, review and reset. That's another nice one. If we don't want to use goals. If you haven't got the problem with goal setting and reviewing, I apologize. I literally, from my years of teacher, I prefer other words. Okay, so it could be, I talked about quarterly, so in business sense, we've got Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. I'm pulling a face if you're not watching this on YouTube. That doesn't work so well for me because that Q3 is right back in the middle of the holiday period. Kids are off. Cornwall's like a surf haven. I could use the quarterly goal setting thing and just write off Q3. But it works better for me to be more seasonal, or personally actually working with those termly, so feeling the school terms. And that works for me because I've got school children. But also we could just I have weekly goals, checking in where I am, what I need to achieve this week. It could be monthly. It could be, you don't know what works, but having a practice of, reflective practitioner, reviewing where I am now. Let's go back to that retreat example. I would be checking in at the end of January, end of February, where I am, where my numbers are. What do I need to do? What do I need to step up in terms of telling people about this retreat? What actions do I need to be taking to filling this retreat? All right, my darlings. So I really would love to see you on the 18th of December. I will really help you set these aligned goals. What I'd love you to do for 2024 is set yourself the goal of having a profitable, sustainable yoga business, because we all deserve that, right? And setting yourself the goal to work with me, because it is possible by yourself, but it's really, really hard. So get your name on the wait list to my mentorship program. The doors open at the end of January. And in the meantime, set yourself some possible goals at certain points in the year where things need to happen, and then set that, let's call it not the impossible goal, let's call it the magical goal, the what if this is possible goal. And you know what? If you come into my mentorship program, I will move heaven and earth and help you to that what if possible goal. All right, my darlings, I'll see you all next week.